to
Okay.
get as much work as I can so I can
Hi,
like be
Alberta.
done by maybe 3 or 4, and then I'll just take it all in there.
Yeah. So, and that's fine. And I know that we have this big work ethic to work those 8 hours a day, but at the same time, just remember that even at work, you're
Yeah,
mandated to have 20 minutes or something like that every couple of hours, or at
yeah,
least 15. So, and do take lunch breaks. I mean, the benefit of working from home is that it's great. You can, you can have it, you can run to the bathroom, you can do your thing, whatever, get some
yeah,
cup of coffee or whatever. And at the same time, because we have the laptop or the computer all the time, we don't really unplug, right? So
yeah,
there's not that separation between going to work, clocking in, and then coming home and turning it off,
yeah,
right? So that turning off button is critical because it's it's hard when the things are blurry between home space and workspace, right? So
yeah,
we'll talk a little bit about that because you need like a calm workspace to be able to produce not only work for yourself but to just separate those two things and keep it at bay a little bit because employers will overshoot that and they will be like, oh well, you can do this amount of work at home.
yeah.
um, let's give you a little bit more and a little bit more. So don't be an overachiever, okay?
Okay.
All right. Alberto, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How everyone?
It's nice to see you guys again. I'm hoping that more people, and I am recording this conversation so that more people can join us. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about attendance. Um, so attendance, I will be taking not only, if you're on the call, you're automatically attended for. If you are not on the call, then I need at least an email confirmation that you've seen the video from the day, and that way I know that you're participating. So, Alberto, is there anything from yesterday's conversation or anything that overnight has sparked interest or anything that you want to talk about first before we go on to the syllabus?
Yeah, I have a couple questions
Sure.
about. It's more like the submission of the homework.
Hmm.
So from yesterday, we only have to answer the questions on the slideshow, right?
Yes.
And drawing a free drawing.
Hmm.
Just two things, right?
Right. Those two things are what to do.
Um,
And yeah.
okay. And my other question is for the I submit in the homework part, but the um, answer for the slideshow questions I posted on the the
Discussion.
homework and the discussion forum. I put them both
Perfect.
because I didn't know. So
No, I'm great. I'm happy that you did both because, in fact, I didn't mention that, but it is in the discussion forum, and I would like each of you to see each other's answers. It's so critical that when we're on an online platform and you don't have that camaraderie with other students in the class, and there's so much that people learn from one another. It's not the learning doesn't just happen one way. It happens from you guys, from all of you interacting together. So I think the discussion platform and the discussion forum is a good place to put your answers because I want to see how um, how you can address one another's. Maybe some of you have similar ideas about with the answers. Some of you might have different ideas, and I want to see that kind of interaction. I think it's also beneficial to because we don't have a community in-class community of students for you guys. Online, unfortunately, the only way we can do that is when you put the text into the discussion forum and other people can read it. So part of this class is going to be us listening to each other presenting or reading each other's text. Those of you who have a hard time, I'm going to show my screen and show you where to drop in for the discussion forum if you don't know where that is. But if you are having a hard time on the digital platform with my RCC, you can also put it into the chat room here. So on Microsoft Teams, you can the same way that we chat here in the chat room right here. Um,
mhm.
you can put your answers there as well because everybody will have access to hopefully Teams within this week. We're working on last minute. A couple of people are not being able to get on. But all of you should be now registered and ready on the platform. So if there is any trouble, try to email me as soon as possible, and we'll try to take care of that with the IT department. Okay. We're going to move on, and we're going to go review the syllabus. It is a living document, which means that it's going to change based on the people that are in the class. It always does. Okay. So for me, the course is not just a one-way platform where I give you all the information from one side, right? Art history and art in general comes from multiple perspectives, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about that today. So as much as the syllabus is an outline for what we're going to do, the meat of it is going to come from each of you individually based on your interests, your likes, your dislikes, and based on the art that you bring to the table, okay? And I'll talk a little bit more, of course, about that. So I am going to do, first things first, I'm gonna meet with you in this way on the platform every 3 times a week, 9:30 to 10:30 in the morning. Those of you who cannot make it, that's absolutely fine. There's going to be a video recording and you can watch it at any time. That's what asynchronous means. It means that you can log in and look at the video and at the content of the work wherever. Then the final is an important date, though, to put into your calendar. That's the last day that we have class, and I would love if everyone could possibly be on the Teams platform by then, presenting your final project. And that, again, is something that we will explain. So if you can just mark this date on the calendar, June 26th, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. If there is a problem for anyone about that time or that date, please let me know as soon as you can. So this is how we're going to meet. Those of you who have any questions, anything that you want to talk about, or if something's come up and you can't make the assignment on time, please make an appointment with me on either Monday or Wednesday evenings, so at 6:30 to 7:30. You can also send me an email and we can meet at a different time that is at your convenience so that you can have access and we can have questions throughout. The best way to reach me is my email right here. And again, you can set up an appointment. I would prefer it to be within this time, but if there's, if that time doesn't work for you, then we'll find an alternative time. We're going to talk about the art textbook that we are going to be using, Art for Everyone. I will have articles from that book that will be embedded onto this platform. Okay, so there's no need to buy one. If you would like, I will show you the book in a second. It is about $20 or $18, I believe, on Amazon. If you are an art history buff, it's a great book to have. The other materials that you will need for the course are pencil and paper, okay? Pen is great, eraser would be great, a box of colored pencils if you have them. All right, so you can read the course description. We are going to cover art in relation to we're going to see paintings, we're going to see sculptures, we're going to see prints, we're going to see photographs, architecture, and we're going to put art into the historical and contemporary context, okay? Understand that art is always made by human beings. And human beings want to communicate and usually have a message, okay? And whatever their time period where they come from, that's where the art comes from, okay? It could be from their emotions, it could be from the culture, it can be whatever's important to them at that time is what they create, okay? So it's just another person communicating to you what he or she thinks it's important, okay? It's important to see art that way because oftentimes we look at art and we see it as an object that is out there in space, and we forget that a human hand made that piece. Okay? All right, so the main thing is for some of you is going to be grading. We're going to have about 5 exercises throughout the course. You're going to be writing 2 presentations, and we'll talk about the midterm and the final, but that will come up a little bit later. But the first assignment that you have is part of these class exercises. So the class exercises are count for 50% of the class. If you get those, you get an automatic pass. And if you do your presentations will bring you up to 70% of the course content. So even if you Heaven forbid that something happened, you couldn't do the final project or the midterm, you would still pass the course. But final projects, and I'm looking forward to them. The evaluation is that you can read this here. Prompt completion of assignments. If you are late, just please let me know, the reason why and when you can resubmit. Class participation. The participation part, we will have, those of you who are on the phone call are automatic, but those of you who are not, please email and especially participate in the discussion forums where you can have that dialogue with each other. Okay, you can read through the following. These are what the projects, again, they might shift based on you individually. So this is not a concrete plan that we have. This will be a living document. So based on your needs, your interests, the projects might shift and change a little bit, but it's again, an outline. All right, and there's the date for the final. Academic honesty is a normal policy. Just make sure that the work and everything that you do in class is your own work. And there's the outline of what we're going to be doing and the weeks that we're going to do it. So you can review this on your own, okay? The next thing is that the discussion forum is here on the left-hand side. So once you click that, the first discussion on the slideshow should be in there, okay? So Alberto, thank you for, I see that it's in. You can, Alberto, can you tell us a little bit how the importing worked for you and from your perspective, what you had to do? So you went to the discussion forum. Can you walk us through the steps of how you submitted your discussion?
How I submitted or how I make my answer?
No. I think just for the students to know how to submit. So if you can just walk us through the platform, that would be great, because I have it from the teaching side of you, but I don't have it from, where's the upload button and all that stuff. So is it possible for you to, if you can remember, like you click on discussion forum, was it relatively simple?
Yeah,
was there an upload button?
Super easy.
Okay,
super
good.
Easy, because as soon as you click on discussion forum, you click on hold on, actually I did the first one I did was the coursework. So if you click on the reflection, the little square that have the homework assignment, you click on it. So it's gonna open this page that say upload file. So when you click on, it's gonna bring a little square that shows choose file, and you choose from your computer.
Perfect.
Okay. So it's very easy. It's like upload the picture on Facebook or something. Everybody knows
how to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
then put in the file as a JPEG. So or any. It could be a Word document, it could be a JPEG file, it can be, again, an image from your phone. And I find this platform relatively simple, but it has some quirks. So just see if anyone has trouble, of course, just send me an email. Thank you, Alberto.
And one more thing, that's easy too. Even though if you upload something that by mistake, you just go to the same page, it's going to be a little trash can right next to it, and you can delete the file that you by mistake put there.
Perfect. So. Yeah. And I would actually double click on the response yourself, and I would check that it's the right file that you wanted to submit, because that's important. All right, and I wanted to show you one more PowerPoint presentation of slides that talk about contemporary art, as opposed to just artists from the past, because I find it very interesting where art from the past influences contemporary art that is happening right now. So on the slide, you see the last image that we saw from the previous slideshow, the rock paintings from Cedarburg. And that was the Cedarburg comes from the tip of South Africa from 40,000 years ago. So human beings evolved between, I think, so I'm not a historian, but 40,000 years ago, or a little bit before. So at the very beginning, it'd probably been longer, those of you who know more about human biology, then you can let me know. But 40,000 years is such an amazing time to create this little beautiful image of, right? 40,000 years ago, to have the skills. For me, the idea of evolution kind of collapses because of the beauty. If I were to ask graduate students in painting to paint portraits of their pets, they would have an incredibly hard time doing this assignment. But these folks who are painting these animals not only knew the animal really well, the shape of the animal, the way that it overlays, the delicate way that the feet are painted, the way that the feet overlap. They knew how that animal looked sitting down, the way that it crouched. And it wasn't that the animal was standing in front of them or they were watching a herd. The animals did not come high that it like came up that high. So the idea that this painter, whoever they were, was painting these animals in the middle of nowhere from just memory is exceptional. They must have a real visual kind of imagery of memory that kept this and created these beautiful little eland, these animals. And there's even a little tiny baby one, right? So for me, the idea that we get smarter and smarter in time collapses a little bit, because I know that the way that this is painted, the technique of that was so exceptional that that again, that idea that we get smarter in the age is a little tricky for me. So South Africa, we move on to the Congo, where these sculptures were created, and they terrified the missionaries that came over to transform people of Congo to the Christian faith, and they had them burned, but luckily the sculptures persisted and then continue today. The sculptures are really interesting in a number of ways, not only as an object and as an artifact. And we tend to, it's interesting, our Western eye, when we look at things, we imagine things as sort of inanimate objects, that they are these objects that are around us, that kind of serve us for whatever purpose. These sculptures were activated and were thought to have a spirit of their own, which is a whole other way of thinking about objects than what we think about, okay? So these sculptures, they were called the Enkisi, were power figures. And these powerful figures were activated when you would come, it would be a similar thing that if you went to a doctor and get a prescription, people would go to the shaman, they would ask for something. If someone did them wrong, or they would ask for righting a wrong, or if they were, if there was a health condition, they asked to become well. And what these Ankisi figures had was they had these little pouches in the center of their stomachs. And the shaman would place medicine inside the center of these sculptures and then nail in to activate the sculpture or to bring it to life or to bring the healing on. He would nail in one of the nails into these sculptures, and they were believed to create the outcome that you wanted, which again maybe terrified the missionaries because it's too powerful, to consider for the Western mind, to how object can be more than just an object sort of sitting around for beauty, that it was an active live thing. The Cuban artist, Tania Bruguera, used the figure of the Enkisi, and she developed a costume, an outfit that activated her own. She's a performance artist, but she's more than that. She practices social engagement. So she walked through the streets of Havana wearing this outfit, activating the history of the Congo in Cuba, and bringing this sort of both sort of object that sparked terror for the missionaries, bringing it to Cuba, to the people in the middle, walking along and being displaced, like being the object now is in a completely different context, okay? Latin American artists always, and African art, always influence the way that, especially contemporary art, about the way that we think society is or has to be. So this is a work by Doris Salcedo, and Doris Salcedo is from Colombia. She often uses objects and works from people that have disappeared in Colombia. So she would go to the house of the folks that had disappeared for political reasons. She would ask to borrow some of their clothing, maybe that was left over, or a trace of them, like their shoes or something. And she would turn them into artwork, just revealing a little part of humanity of that person and then concealing it. But what she did in the Tate Modern is she took the floor and a very hard cement floor, and she put a literal crack inside of the actual space, inside of the museum, which is super interesting. You think about, oh, sorry. So when you think about a structure and you think about a break, I mean, there's natural causes to that from an earthquake, but to create that break, first you have to have a serious conversation with, obviously, the museum and say, you know, I want to demolish and crack your floor. And oftentimes, if you just approach them saying that, they will say, of course not. But because she's coming from a perspective of thinking about borders and thinking about what that crack means, and to actually crack an institution or crack the structure, a belief system, a paved cement floor. What do you guys think? Those of you who are on the call and looking at these contemporary artists, just those two, Tanya Bruguera and Doris Salcedo, what do you think of that crack on the floor? Stella, any ideas or any thoughts about the images or the contemporary artwork? Anyway, I will post. Contemporary artists are.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I like the cracks on the floor. It kind of says a lot, but even though it's not saying anything to some people, like it.
What does it say to you?
Huh?
What does it say to you when you look at that crack on the floor? What does it mean?
Like, to me, it seems society's kind of broken. And like we're still dealing with a lot of issues from like back in the days, from like racism and other discrimination from like LGBT family. Like it's like a whole lot going on.
Right.
It's kind of saying it's trying to divide us, but like if we stay united, then we can't be broken. I don't know. It just says a lot.
It is. It does. And you're right. And it is about breaking contemporary. There's these solid kind of foundations that are just wrong, right?
Yeah.
U.S. is built on unstable, unsolid ground. It's never been equitable. It's never been, and that's wrong. And that has to be. And it's amazing that she can penetrate. Like, first of all, the work, right, that goes into cracking a cement wall. This is something that she had to like take. I would assume like some one of those machines that like digs deep in.
Yeah.
What she also did was she took a wall, I think from Colombia, that she cast, and she actually replicated. There's some fence inside this crack. So if you bend down inside this crack and look in, you would see texture of this crack. And I guess it's a side of a wall in Colombia. So she actually transferred a wall. But
That's cool.
I think that she's amazing. She's extraordinary. And I think that this commentary on contemporary culture of how it is broken and how we can't hide the fact that there's, you know, now this huge gash. And in fact, this scar of this will last on the floor of the museum permanently. She poured it after her piece. She had to repair the floor, but the scar of it and the trace of it will forever be there, which is also, I think, a really powerful thing, that even though she had to repair it and sort of cancel out her project, really, there's still a leftover crack, which I kind of love. The other piece that I wanted to talk about today in relation to George Floyd, who was murdered right by the police. It was in the paper this morning. They call them killings, but they're murders, and that's the system that's broken, because usually murderers go to jail and we have a justice system. It's not all right to understand that there was a man that died at the hands of another man, and tweak the system to kind of to lighten the load. I mean, there was just fired, but that's not enough, right?
Yeah.
They are criminals that are
Yeah.
now on the streets, and that's not okay. So there was a response from Michael Brown. Hank Willis Thomas is an amazing sculptor, photographer,
Mm-hmm.
and he did this piece, and I think it's called Rising.
Mm-hmm.
So it has this dual edge sword of hands up, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the same gesture as Michael Brown, and at the
Yeah.
same time understanding the rising and just the fury that needs to happen. I think
Yeah.
so. So we will go into you. All of you will have a project over the weekend to identify a slide that's relevant to you. Find
Okay.
artwork, and I will give you the proper assignment and all the parameters around that on Friday. But start looking at contemporary art. There is a website called art21.org.
Okay.
I will, and it's in our resources. You don't have to write it down, and I will, of course, mention it again. But go looking through our artists' works that really speak to you. Don't bother with the ones that don't say anything to you. Really find ones that capture your attention and something that you feel strongly about. Um, so that's what I wanted to show you. I also placed in the on our platform, MyRCC, there is going to be a yoga meditation just for your own practice. If you sometimes you need to have a little bit of, especially when you're working from home, you can have a little bit of break time for 10 minutes. Give yourself a little bit of these breaks because they're very, very necessary in our everyday culture right now. So those will be on the resource board today. And the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is I wanted to share with you an artist perspective. David Hockney, he's still contemporary, but he has a different idea on beauty, right? And to
Mm.
notice beauty all around us. So I'm going to leave you with this video. Hear it?
Yes.
So I will leave you with that, because yes, there's of course in the world right now there's a tremendous amount of upheaval. There's a tremendous amount of pain and suffering, really, and at the same time, there is always the blue sky above the clouds. Sometimes there's always some natural beauty that's around, and it's so important to see both, right? To
Mhm.
understand the gravity of the situation, to understand how unfair and the structures that we have are need to tumble. They really do. And actually they kind of are. They are. They're in the process. I mean, people try to deny it, but structures are crumbling and they need to. It's a natural process. Um, and so there is amazing pain and suffering. That's not to negate it. And at the same time, to understand that our job as artists or people that are living consciously is to think about um, how to reflect also the beauty of life. Because it's amazing that we are on this planet and we're living. It really is extraordinary. Each of you have come, and each of you are here, and that you've now existed for the last, 15, 20, 18, 30, 40 years on the planet. And just your presence, just you being here, doing what you're doing has an effect, right?
Mhm.
And where do you want to contribute to that effect? I think it is, yeah, it is extraordinary to be on the planet. There is a Will Smith documentary called um, Dangerous Rock. What is it called? I'll find out the name. But it's a fantastic documentary about Earth and about the planet and the existence of us and how really unique it is. It's that we're these tiny little things running around on a planet in the middle of space at 70,000 miles an hour. Um, it's outstanding. It's incredible, right?
Mhm.
So think about what artwork speaks to you, and we will work from that point. Stella, since you're the only one on the phone call, there is there any other questions you have for me?
No, you answered everything. It was a great session.
Good to hear. On Friday, we will
Uh-huh.
do a quick writing prompt. So we will do it. It's only 7 minutes long.
Mhm.
Um, and then we'll talk about the next assignment. But I look forward to seeing all your drawings tomorrow.
Yay.
That's exciting for me. All right.
Thank
Whether you're a
you.
drawer or not, have a great day. Take
Thank
care,
you.
guys.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.